I'm holding my phone, yeah, because the nice condenser mic is there, and the things that we put so much of emphasis on to make quality videos for the likes of YouTube and advertising, and I did that. I got very pedantic about all of that stuff, and all it did was result in me not putting out the content and not getting my message across. So I decided to shelve all of it. I'm going to record on my phone, not recording in log and then going and spending days editing. And I think that transfers into my approach to Lila and the whole concept of photography that we are trying to put out into the world. I've done the usual try to be like everyone else kind of thing because that's what works, and try to specify different niches and advertise cheap shoots and take on any job that you can. It didn't happen. It didn't work because it didn't speak to me, and that's not where the value is in what I'm doing. The value in what I'm doing is in the authenticity of the person, the subject, the landscape that I'm capturing, and the feeling that you get from looking at a photograph of whatever that is or whomever that is that I've captured. As a result, the traditional means of taking hundreds of photos and batch editing them just does not work. And you know what, that's okay. So I have chosen to take this route, which is a bit more time consuming, really it is. It's probably a lot less lucrative route, and it's a lot poorer business model. But after years of being in industry, I don't want that to be my priority anymore. I want the images that I produce to be emotional. I want them to have connection with the subjects or the environments that I'm trying to capture. My approach to photography is very, I would say, as I'm getting older, I think my approach to everything is getting simpler and simpler. Fewer lights, less concern about fancy cameras, less concern about everything that new technology gives us to do efficiently. Fair, AI and technology is making life very efficient, but I feel it's taking the humanity out of a lot of things, and for me, art is a very human, subjective, emotional thing. And as a result of that, I'm going to title this video, I'm not a photographer, but I make photographs. And I've been using the full word photograph and the word make more recently, intentionally, because I'm trying to think back to where photography began. My feeling is that photography was and should be a way of telling a story without using any words. And I believe that in order to tell someone's story or something's story, you need to know that subject intimately, which means spending a lot of time getting to know that person or that subject and thinking very deeply about how to portray them, the colors that will go together or lack thereof, their features, how they would like to be seen, but also what they look like in the real world and who they really are. And portraying that in an image, portraying the true essence of the subject, be it a person or an object or a landscape. So I tried to niche down, as all the YouTube tutorials tell you, and I failed at doing that because I was afraid of being labeled a jack of all trades, and a master of none. But firstly, mastery is overrated. This is subjective. Whether I have 2 years of experience or 20 years of experience, what you see in front of you and how you connect with it, that's for you to judge. Why I say I've moved away from niching down is I realized that I'm not a something photographer. I'm not a wedding photographer. I'm not a portrait photographer. I'm not a landscape photographer. Sure, I started photographing landscapes and then nature, and then moved into street photography and got more and more interested in photographing people and their emotions and their environment. But I make photographs, and therefore I tell stories. I tell stories through images and through manipulating light and shadows and grain and texture. That's who I want to be. And that's what I want people who work with me to get out of their time spent with me. That might mean, attracting fewer clients, but I believe it will attract the right clients. And by the time our time together is, let's say, over, that those people will have built a connection with us, have built a connection with the images, and I would have a connection with those images. And when I look at them, I look at them and think, I can feel what I was trying to portray here. And I would put that on my wall. And in order to do that, I don't believe you can have 200 images that look somewhat similar in different positions. I believe that we need to take a lot of time to press the shutter button a few times to capture special moments. Or I may spend a day with a person chatting to get a single shot. I might sit and chat to them and take 150 shots of the same headshot, for example. But there'll be that one where the crease in one eye aligns with the position of the eye and the way the light sits in it, and the creases in their forehead and the slight tilt of their head and the slight crease by their corner of their lip and the way their nose moves. And that combination will depict that person's essence. And to find that, you cannot be trying to capture 2 million different scenes. Look, in order for this to be of full value to people, I do more than one image, obviously. But I work on a basis of a minimum of 8 images, but understand that those 8 images take weeks to build by getting to know each other and days to edit. I edit each one personally by hand, making tiny, tiny local adjustments to each one to give each one a feel and a mood and a connection with the person looking at it. A lot of this concept started with something from my home where I grew up. My parents have a painting of themselves on their wedding day on the wall, and I've never really seen much of their wedding album. I found out later that one of their relatives sent a photograph of them from their wedding day to someone in India to paint that portrait of the two of them, and it hangs on the wall and you walk past it every single day. And I thought to myself, what has more value? What has more inherent quality? 100 pictures of yourself in different positions, in different locations with 2 million people from your wedding day, for example, or that one image you look at every single day and remember that, coming together of yourself and your spouse, or whatever moment it might be. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for sitting the whole day and just watching for that special moment, whatever the event may be, and capturing that, because that's, for me, the stuff that stands the test of time. It's the stuff you look back on and take yourself back to that place. I realized at some stage that what made me a good engineer in my previous life is what makes me good at making photographs. I'm fortunate. I learn things very quickly, but for those close to me, you'll know that I pay my fair share of the price for that in other ways regarding, in terms of mental health. But such is the way life went. I harness the power of what I do have to, to learn as much as I can and use it. So I took to photography very quickly. I learned the operational side of using a camera very quickly, and it's those kinds of things that are not very complicated to me. But what I feel makes what we're doing here at Lila special is not the ability to use the camera, but the ability to see the moment, to improvise, to pick that little sliver of time out of a day and see that moment in an image. And that, I think, is something truly, truly dependent on every single individual that is a photographer or calls himself an artist. It's not something that can be replicated by someone else. And that's what I try to put into my work, and this is why I treat images separately. I approach photography in kind of a slow manner with a lot of attention to the little things that take a lot of time but don't produce a lot of images, which for me is far more important. The whole idea behind Lila is to meet a person, have a conversation or a cup of coffee with them, determine whether what we each see in the goal of the photography and story we're trying to tell is aligned. The last thing I want is to have someone think that I'm going to deliver 100 photos like a wedding photographer might. There are people who do that, and that's not what we're trying to do here. It's very important that we identify shared values, and we each understand that this is going to take quite a bit of input to produce meaningful images. And if we are from there, it's a case of us continuously engaging for me to get to know you and who you are and what we want to portray. And then I start taking that and conceptualizing. I will be making a video of one of the clients that we worked with from beginning to end, and you'll see how I met the person. In that case, I did a kind of a mock shoot, which is basically just not for the sake of ever having the images, but for the sake of being in front of a camera. And most of us haven't been in front of a camera like this, and we tend to get nervous, and it takes away from the authenticity of the images. So I did a kind of just a mock shoot with images that we never really actually used, but it just helps put everyone at ease. And that's the whole point of this process, to not be rushed, to be relaxed, to slow down. It's something that has taken me years to accept, and I'm still learning, but I'm slowing down and taking in every bit of every experience that we have. From there, during that shoot, also got to know the person better, got to know their likes and dislikes about themselves, their life story, things that influence them, about some of their personality, some of their story that they want to tell. And then I go back and I kind of storyboard this thing and work on the color grading and decide on, the whole aesthetic, and we chat back and forth until we use the items that the person owns in terms of like clothing and things like that, or things that are very relevant. Like in this person's case, we used the sari from our wedding. Yeah, so I draw a lot of influence from cinematic images, cinematography. I love watching movies for the sake of paying attention to the compositions and the lighting and the choice of colors. And I like incorporating that into photography because it helps create atmosphere, it helps create mood. We built the story, I floated concepts to her, we chatted back and forth about what she was comfortable with and what not, until we eventually built what we both felt would embody her story. And we planned the shoot, we did the shoot, I did the editing, Leanne was with me for the shoot because we worked together to see things from two different points of view. I'll be the first to admit that, yes, I've learned a lot about how the opposite genders' perceptions work, but even that said, for my being male and my gender, it varies from person to person, and it really helps to have an additional objective view, and that's what we try to do. We play off each other, Leanne and I, and it picks up all the blind spots, especially with the boudoir photography, and it makes it a lot more real. And the images that come through are not, magazine models, but someone from home. They're intimate and they portray sexuality, but not necessarily needing to be extensively vulgar. And that's the point of doing this. It's about the level of comfort and what a person wants to portray in themselves or of themselves. I did the edits. I sent the edits over to her. We had a chat about what she liked, what she didn't like. I gave my input into what I'd be comfortable with changing and what I believed could have been maybe not altered but flattered in a certain way. We work on a premise of edit and light to flatter, but not to fake. I'm not here to change who you are. Rule of thumb, if it's not going to be there in 2 weeks, I'll consider taking it out. But if there are facial features of yours that make you who you are, the whole point of this process is becoming comfortable with who you are. Don't get me wrong, we do discuss these things, we go back and forth, and I will put my, let's call it, argument forward and my interpretation forward, but at the end of the day, we'll go back and forth until we reach a, let's call it, a compromise. That's what this process is about, and we eventually did that. Yes, I know it's time consuming, but that's what I'm here for. And at the end of the day, when I look at those images, I know she's happy with what she sees. And I'm also happy with what I produced because it was true to who she is, and she was also comfortable with who she was and what was portrayed of her in those images. I'm going to go through that from beginning to end in another video. As much as I do still apply these concepts, sometimes if we're not doing a full process and it's a shorter kind of interaction, I still try to have as much connection with the subject as possible. All of the atmosphere building things are there, and I still aim to rather tell their story than just make images of them on the beach with the sun in the background and a bright flash in their face. That's just my approach. And here are some examples of images that really portray what we're trying to do. You can have a look at some of these boudoir images that I've done in the last few months, where couples wanted to show intimacy, more than a couple shoot, but at the same time not vulgar and overly sexualized. And then there were individual shoots as well, where once again, in some cases it was the sensuality that we had to create using the environment and lighting without bearing too much skin. And in another case, it was a person that was a bit more open in terms of their comfort with themselves and being open about their bodies, and still didn't want it to be sort of this, I don't know, I can't think of a less crude way to say it, but didn't want it to be kind of like softcore porn, I guess. And I think we captured that. We captured elements of who this person is, and they were very happy with the images. In our portraiture, I try again to capture the essence of people. In this couple shoot we did with Jared and Rebecca, these were all shot on the same day, within an hour or two. But every single image is slightly different, and that is what this is all about. Every image has slightly different nuances to suit the mood of that moment, that pose, the connection that was trying to be conveyed in that specific image. In my landscape work, which is where I started as well, I'm very much to portray the environment realistically, but create as much of a sense of mood and what it felt like to be there. So I won't go with full contrast from foreground to background. I'll make it look like your eyes see it, where contrast falls off as you go into the background. And those are the kinds of things I like doing, and then I incorporate that into my portraiture and other areas of photography, whether it be anything, be it a corporate client, be it headshots, be it an event where I'm capturing specific moments. I'm able to bring these aspects of various genres of photography together, and together with seeing the moment, which is what I feel makes a photographer a photographer. It's not using the camera. The camera is great. It can do a lot on its own these days. And I try as much as possible not to use too many of those little functions. The reason I do is not because I'm trying to be a purist. It's because I like having control of what I'm doing. And I like the fact that the decision I made, be it a mistake or not, is what went into that piece. It's what I did, not the camera. And essentially that's what this is all about. It's about you getting a piece of me, a piece of us, a piece of our philosophy in the images that you keep forever. The next two images I took while we were in the Drakensberg a few weeks ago, and 15-year-old model. She was there to be a model, as she is, but I wanted to capture the 15-year-old girl, that 15-year-old person that we've all been, with the ups and downs of growing up, of being adolescent, of still discovering what it is to be human. And I only took 2 shots of her that weekend, and they were really not very, very planned shots. I mean, like any other 15-year-old, she's obviously got things going on in her mind emotionally, and then has to, at some point, when photographers are ready, put all of that away and put on a smile and a pose. But I really hope that people and other photographers especially take the time to remember the person behind the model. I tried to capture the innocence of a 15-year-old girl, the emotions and expression that a 15-year-old girl portrays, not as a posed model, but as a human being. If we have a look at a couple of the recent headshots I've been doing and naturally lit portraiture of Leanne, and you'll see that in these 3 images, it's myself, Leanne, and Mira. I tried to capture pure moments of what we were at that time. And something was happening that day. I can't remember what, and I got home in a huff. And so I just went and sat down in front of the camera without, I think I was still sweaty and my hair was all over the place. And I just took this image, and I was inspired by something I had watched earlier that week, and I'll talk about that in another video. But that was the start of the series that I was trying to do, and I'm not saying that I want to do this with every client, but it's just to show you the versatility in what we do and the depth in what we do and what we try to achieve with each of our images. With Mira, we were out at the Botanical Gardens, and I wanted to get a naturally lit, with the catchlight in the eyes, innocence and playfulness of a 5-year-old. You'll see a little cut on her lip and scratches on her face, but that's a 5-year-old. That's what 5-year-olds do when they're learning and they're playing. And then in this last image that I think I'll actually talk about, but won't be the last image you see, I portrayed Leanne in a true moment. We have been recently talking a lot about how, and thanks to my mental health challenges, I have come to learn what it really feels like to be thinking about wanting to do or feel a certain way, but the chemical balance in your mind saying no and making you feel another way. And I think what we're trying to do is normalize these things. We're trying to make it that as humans this happens. We need to all stop acting like we don't have vulnerable moments. We do That's when we need people's support, not to be strong. And this was one of those moments where I talked about it in an article that I'll link below, where it was, a time that every woman goes through monthly. Just before that men make jokes about, because that's why she's crazy, because she's PMSing or whatever. And we ended up talking about how it feels for your hormones to just do what they want. And in this moment, it was one of those moments where she said to me, I know I don't want to be crying right now, but I am. And we were able to capture that. And I titled the image Only Human. And for me, this is one of the most powerful images I've captured to date, because it shows our humanness. And I hope we do more of that. Not saying that I want to capture you crying, but I hope it conveys the idea of what we're all about. So I'm going to be doing a lot more philosophical talking in my videos. I might not put out videos very often. Again, I'm inspired by Sean Tucker. And I want to make more videos like his that speak to me rather than just teach you how to use a camera or how to edit. There's plenty of that. And hopefully this will strike a chord with certain people. And those are my people, I guess. I've come to learn that I've had to stop trying to find people. And somehow, if we were meant to meet, we'll meet. There will be more long videos like this. And it is what it is. It's the way I want to be, and it's the philosophy behind Lila. It's authenticity, it's realness, it's our humanness, it's the environment, what the environment is and how it makes us feel. I've changed my mind. I don't think I'm going to put a whole lot of images at the end of this video. I'm going to link to our Instagram and Facebook pages below, and to the website where I have kind of a summary portfolio and then a little bit more if you want to have a look at some of the work we've done. Instagram, I think, has the most current and includes some of the travel photography and documentary photography that I've done. And I hope that this resonates with somebody, and you give me a shout and we see where it goes from there. It doesn't have to lead anywhere than a chat, and then one less person on this planet is a stranger to me. So I hope that this speaks to you. I hope that you, if not speak to us or me again, you take something away from this video and just think more along the lines of what I've tried to put out there. But if we don't meet, I hope you stay well, and if we do, that will be cool. That's going to say goodbye for now. I've been waffling for way too long. And this is Neo, the maker of photographs for Lila Fine Art Photography.